Real estate is a tough business. We will share stories here that you won't hear anywhere else. So join us to learn the truth and avoid those costly mistakes.
We're John and Kaylin Sledge, and this is the Think Like an Appraiser podcast, cautionary tales in real estate.
Welcome to the third episode of the Think Like an Appraiser podcast. Today's guest is Chris Galvan, a San Antonio, Texas real estate agent. Great interview with Chris. There's some things that I want you to listen for. First of all, he talks about a time that an appraisal, the home didn't appraise for the contracted price. And his insights are very interesting. He also goes into depth of what a CMA is and explains how he does it. And there are some great tips in this episode. So enjoy.
Hey, Chris, welcome, and thanks for being a part of our show today. Would you take a minute and let our listeners know a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, John, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. My name's Chris Galvan. I'm a real estate agent, a realtor here in San Antonio, Texas, with Keller Williams Heritage, and more specifically with the Twin Brother Property Group. My twin brother and I, Steve Galvan, are team leads in our group, and we are born and raised San Antonio, and we both married girls named Emily, and we are excited to share our love of the city and the community and real estate with our clients, with our friends, with our family, and really appreciate you having me on.
You bet. Well, what we try to do is tell cautionary tales to our listeners so that we want to tell the truth out there, because everybody's out there saying, oh, all this works just great and everything is perfect all the time. But we really know that things happen, and that you got to set yourself up for success, whether you're a real estate agent or an investor, to know what your client needs and what is best for them. And so you and I were talking about, when it comes to the appraisal and the site visit of the appraisal, y'all have an approach that y'all take with all of your clients, or that you recommend. And then you told me that you did have a cautionary tale because one of your clients chose to take their own direction when it led to the appraisal. You tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So, you have two sides of the deal. So you have the appraisal as a listing agent, and then you have the appraisal as the buyer's agent, right? So in this scenario, I'm a listing agent. The house goes under contract, and I will say that the appraisal is often forgotten about or just not placed as a big part of the importance. We're searching for homes, or we're getting the house ready to look good, and we're listing it, and the importance is making it look good, and then open houses and getting a contract, and then you just for 3 weeks you just go quiet. Things are just humming along. The appraisal, and I will say, lenders don't always tell you in the appraisal schedule. So it doesn't seem that important to anybody. So it doesn't always seem that important to the agent. Therefore, it doesn't seem that important to the client. It's just one of those things that can literally make the whole deal or break the whole deal. And we don't always place the importance of the appraisal as much as we should, right?
Sure.
And it's just,
well, at that point, you've got a contract, and your clients, they're looking at where they're going next and what's
correct.
Down the road. Not they feel like they've already got the deal done. They just have to close.
Correct. So I do want to say that it should be a very, very big, important part of both sides, either you're a buyer's agent or a listing agent. And so as a listing agent, we take an approach, and not because we've always done it the right way or we've always done it this way, but we learned when we do things right, and when we come in and we get appraisals that maybe are lower and they don't meet value, and we're always scratching our heads, why is this appraiser not see what we see, right?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, there was a client that I had advised to keep their home staged, looking like it was in the photos, to look clean, to look good, to smell good, not to start packing up and not to start moving their belongings and their life and getting ready for the next stage, which is they were buying a house. And as hard as it is for people to keep the house the way it is and not want to start moving and move on with their life, it's very necessary. So I told them everything. Hey, do not do this, and leave the home when the appraisal is scheduled. So if it's scheduled for Wednesday at 2 or whatever time it was, then you and your family, as invasive as it is, as inconvenient as it is, you need to go. You need to be gone for an hour, and you need to go get lunch or something, and that's what you need to do. And I can't make all the decisions for my clients, and I can't force them to do anything, but they decided to pack up, have boxes everywhere. So half their house was ready, half their house wasn't. Obviously, it's messy. Obviously, it doesn't look that great. And then they also decided to be home during the appraisal. So, so again, I ask them how it went, and did they get in and out, like get out of the house and they come back and everything was fine. And they said, oh, well, we never left. And I just scratched my head. And then I'm praying to the appraisal gods that we're okay, and that my client didn't say anything that would, cause any problem. So I think we were listed at 229, contracted at 235, because the market is also calls for buyers to go higher than the list price to get the house, right? So we're in this conundrum of accepting offers that are higher than the list price, but also wanting it to appraise. So the appraisal comes in at 223 or something, like, and in that price home, that's a lot of difference. It's $12,000 or $13,000 is a big deal. And my clients were contingent. They were buying a house, but it was contingent upon the sale of that one.
Sure.
And the house they were buying, that seller was contingent upon that sale of his home to purchase one. So we have 3 properties all lined up. Can be great, or it can be bad if we don't make our appraisal on ours, or the deal falls through. So I asked my client, hey, what happened? And he said, oh, I answered the door, and he started asking me questions if I had done any upgrades, and I told him no. And I'm just sitting there like, why were you home, first of all? And then why did you even engage in anything? So we did make appraisal. The deal almost blew up, which for me as an agent was one deal and another deal.
Right.
And it was a very stressful week for a lot of people. And so when, the wife of the client, I could hear her in the background when I called, and she said, I told you we needed to leave. And I told, so again, then I'm now like in the middle of, I'm in a Dr. Phil show, right? So it turned out not so great. Now we got the deal done. It cost a little bit of money on all sides. Everyone had to pay for it. The buyer had to pay, the seller had to pay, both agents had to pay. I'll just put it that way, to get the deal done.
Right.
And so again, just fundamental principles of keeping the house looking good, not being home. So you don't give the appraiser a chance to make a human decision or an emotional decision because you're home. Maybe they don't like you. I don't know. There's all kinds of things, right?
Sure.
So they didn't listen. We didn't make appraisal. And it could have been because of that or not. I don't know for sure, but I do know that not having the house look good does affect the appraisal.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Because even though an appraiser is, looking at everything analytically, they're human, and
yes,
they might not know that it affects their emotions one way or the other, but it definitely can. So,
absolutely.
So tell me about another instance where it was handled differently, and did you get a different outcome?
Yes. All right. So another one, a great example, and I'm going to use the example of selling my own personal home.
Okay.
And as agents, I can't speak for all agents, but as a seller, you want to spend the least amount of money getting your house ready, and you want to make the most amount of money on the sale. Like, just that's how you are built, right? So I had to take a step back and say, okay, what's the right thing to do? We're under contract on a home already to purchase. Now,
Right.
It wasn't contingent, so I wasn't super desperate that we had to sell in a day or anything. But we spent about $2,000 on the painting exterior of our home. We added mulch. We painted our front door. We have a dog, and the dog would scratch the door.
Sure.
It just like ripped up. So, and we didn't care at the time, right? We don't care. But when you're selling it, you care, and the buyers care. So we spent $2,000 on that. We spent about another $1,100 on staging the home. We got furniture out that the stager said, hey, do this. So we got the home perfectly ready. What we felt, we left the home that weekend. Within 4 hours of us listing, we had an offer. Within 12 hours, we had 2 offers, and we got it under contract. Now, we listed for, I'm just because it's my personal, I'm not going to leave the numbers in, but we listed it for X. We get 6,000 over X for our offer. Now, we listed it a little at or below the comps.
Sure.
Even though we had upgrades, and even though I knew that we could probably get a good price for a home, I just wanted to be sure as an agent that we sold it quickly. That's all I cared about. So we got 6,000 over. We took that offer, but we left the home staged and cleaned, and we did not move anything. And we actually got it cleaned right before the appraiser came, the morning before, or the morning of, or the day before, I can't remember. We left the home, and we were homeschooling, COVID, all that stuff, right? And we got in the car, we went down the street, and we just sat in the car.
Right.
We watched the appraisers come in, we watched them do their thing, and we waited. Our house came in 5,000 over the sale, the offer price. So 10,000 over list price. And I was a little surprised because the home across the street had sold 6 months before. It's the exact same floor plan, John. Everything's the same. And they got 5,000 less than what we listed it for.
Wow.
So, and then obviously it appraised, but I don't know what it appraised for, but we basically got 15,000 over. The appraisal value was 15,000 over what the best comp was in the neighborhood 6 months before. And so knowing that the house looked great, it was clean, nobody was home, it showed amazing, it just was in perfect condition. I believe that we got, not only did we sell it fast, but we got it appraised higher because we had some key factors that we felt like any person walking in is going to just add a little more value to a home that's clean, that looks nice, it looks fresh, it smells good.
Sure.
So I followed my own advice by listing it at the right price and then keeping it clean and keeping it staged for the appraisal. And it was a home run, easy, one of the easiest transactions I've ever had. It was mine.
Well, that's great. And I think it's a great point. One of the things we do teach in our community is about the appraisers utilize a condition and quality ratings when they go to do the site visit. They go through and it's not rating the house as a whole, but it's taking each individual area of the home and rating that from a quality standpoint. And I believe, as a former appraiser, that there is some emotion involved. And if a home is, right there on the line, well, if it's bright and light and smells good and clean, then you get, you might step over to the one side of the line where.
Yeah, I think you do get it over the edge.
And I think that's the key, is it shifts you when you're on that line there from one area to the other. And I think the lighting is a key that a lot of people miss. Realtors always go in for their showings and all the lights are on. An appraisal will go through, and if it's not dark in the room, he's not going to flip the light on, or she's not, because they've got enough light from the outside. But it doesn't give the same feel as it does when it's bright and light. And
correct.
So, well, that's great.
Well, especially and sorry to interrupt, but especially during COVID. So you have a lot of sellers that don't want anyone touching anything. They don't want turning on light switches. They don't want opening doors. They don't want you to touch anything because of COVID, and it's understandable. But if you don't leave your home completely show ready for the appraiser, that appraiser may be respectful. They may not want to touch anything. They may be elderly themselves and they don't want to get anything. So they don't experience the home in the best possible way. And you're setting yourself up to have a chance to get a low or a lower appraisal. Right. And so I just believe, like, how do you put yourself in the best chance to get the highest value possible? You make it look so good, like you're wanting to sell the home to the appraiser, not just a buyer.
And I think that's a great point. And I think it's interesting to look at the two stories and how a few different changes could lead to a different outcome. I mean, do we know
Correct.
specifically that that's the reason? No, but I definitely think it can have an impact on the appraisal process. So
100%. Absolutely.
that's great. Hey, do you mind if I ask you a question just about your real estate business?
Sure.
Not really tied into this. A CMA that real estate agents do. I'm sure that everybody has a different way that they do those. Would you mind walking me through what it is you do and what results you're getting from your CMAs that you put together for your clients?
Sure. So, I work, my brokerage is Keller Williams. They have this long, amazing 8-9 week training process, and you learn everything, but you don't learn it in depth. Like you don't, so there's a CMA 2-day CMA course, but when you're brand new and you don't know anything about anything to begin with, you don't retain that. You don't understand it because you have to go in and work through MLS and really be in that on the computer quite a bit to understand how to use it. Now,
Sure.
What I've done is I will go and initially what I do is let's say you give me an address, 123 J Street. I go look on Google Maps and I look on MLS and I see where that is located. And I go find out that neighborhood, like what's the neighborhood called? And San Antonio neighborhoods are unique. I mean, you have gated neighborhoods where you're like, okay, I know exactly that's the neighborhood. It's a gate. There's one way in, one way out. There's other neighborhoods like you get to Sheer Hills or and it's just like, it's not really like a traditional neighborhood. It's just houses. It's right off a road, but you don't know where that neighborhood ends and where the new one begins. Like there's a neighborhood next to it, but you don't really know as a realtor where that is. And so I do some research to find out, okay, what is this neighborhood called? What neighborhood is 123 J Street in? And find that on the map, make sure I know what I'm comparing to. Now, if a lot of stuff is similar, I may go out and go capture some of that. But what I try to do initially, John, is I try to stay in the proper neighborhood name. I try to stay there first. Okay. From there, I take this 1-story, 2-story, and if it's a 1-story, I only select 1-story to search for. Then I take the square footage and I go plus or minus 15 to 20%.
Right.
So if it's 2,000 square feet, I'll probably go 300 below, and that maybe 400, but it can get a little dicey there. I'll take if bigger homes, I'll go 15%. Smaller homes, I'll go about 20%.
Okay.
Minimum bedroom. So if it's a 3-2, I always stay minimum at 3 and minimum at 2. If I find nothing, like very little, I'll go 3-1. Like I'll just kind of look to see, right? From there, if I go 6 months back from there, and then if I'm only getting like 2 properties, because sometimes that happens. You're getting like 2 properties and they're both for sale. They haven't sold yet. So then I have to go further back or I have to expand my search and things like that. So then I take all of the results and I look at averages of sold, what's expired, canceled, on the market now, things like that. And if I feel like I find true comps that are sold and maybe something that's on the market now, I will go into MLS and look at every single photo, and I will look for flooring. I will look for countertops. I will look for bathroom remodels. I will look for cabinets. I'll look for covered patios. If it's new roof, is it, backyard has privacy fencing. I will go in and look like how updated more or less is my subject property to this comparables. And I will then share with my clients, okay, here's the deal. We got your same floor plan that sold 6 months ago. Here's the thing. They sold for $250, but they had hardwood floors. You have carpet.
Right.
They have granite countertops. You have, the original. They put in backsplash or whatever. And I'm going to tell them, look, that's the same floor plan. It sold for $250. You're not even close. We can't sell at $250 because any buyer's agent's going to look at that and go, you can't compare that, like that. There's more value to that $250. So we're going to offer you $229 or $232 or whatever. So that's how I do it. But I go in through every single photo. And if it's on the market now, it hasn't been sold and it's listed and it's very comparable, I'll actually go to an appointment. I'll go show the house, or I'll go see it myself.
Sure.
As a preview, and I'll look inside of it and I'll feel it and I'll go, how does this feel how does this look compared to the home I'm trying to sell? And because that's what buyers do, and that's how buyers agents work and things like that. So although it's not a true CMA, it's not debiting and crediting numbers for, quality and, what is it like? Y'all have the 4 and 3 rating and stuff.
Right. For the
I can't
quality and
do that.
condition. Right.
But I can go, let's talk about bathrooms and kitchens and flooring and, tall ceiling, all these things. And I'll go, look, I believe that someone's going to want to buy your home. They're going to probably want to buy it at this, and this is why. And they'll either say, yeah, you're right, I really need to get this sold, let's go. And if we price it right, we may get more anyway, because the market for sellers is great.
Right.
But if we price it too high, it just sits there. And so I always ask my clients, what's your current situation? Can you afford just to sit here? Because you're probably looking to buy, you're probably looking to move on. Let's be realistic here. And, and we talk those through to make sure that I as an agent can price that home correctly. But sellers sometimes get emotional, and they think that because they brought their kids home to that house
right
when they were out of the hospital, they believe there's more value there. And hey, I tell them, I brought my kids home. I've been in a home for 10 years. I brought them home, both home. We raised them there. My wife and I got married. That doesn't matter to anyone else. It only matters to me. There's no monetary value on that. The only monetary value is on flooring, on carpet, on countertops, and like all those things is what people really value. So we gotta go there. So a lot of it is just agents need to talk to their clients more and be realistic with them and share with them what buyers think. So running CMAs, I know I kind of got off tangent.
No, you're perfect.
But you have to show your clients, when you're talking about a list price, you have to show them what the other homes not only sold for, but what they actually look like inside and what upgrades they had compared to the home that they're trying to sell. And that's what usually helps them understand we need to price it lower, higher, or what have you, because it's realistic. So that's how I use it. I tell them, like, if you're doing a kitchen remodel, it could be 15 to 20K. I mean, it could be 5,000 for new countertops, but if you want new cabinets, if you want new backsplash, like, you could be talking a lot of money. And that's what buyers are going to think when they're going into your home. They're going to have to spend that money, but usually they don't want to spend it out of their pocket. They just want to finance the amount. So they'd rather buy a flipped home or a nice home because they don't have to do any work and they don't have to spend cash. So you have to help your clients understand how to price it. But I use that process of defining the neighborhood, 1-story or 2-story. I don't compare apples to oranges there. 15 to 20% square feet. Obviously the bedrooms, bathrooms minimum. And then you just take a look, you go inside the homes, you see them, and you explain to your client like why their home is worth X or what we think we could sell. It's not what it's worth. And that's what they think. What do you think is my house worth? It's like, I don't know what it's worth. Here's what I think we should sell it for.
Right.
The appraiser is going to decide what it's worth, or, it's not what it's worth. It's what we can list it at to get it sold. So that's how I think, and that's how I do it. I find it works logically for me, and it works logically for my clients.
Well, that makes perfect sense. And that's one of the things we train at, is to look at the deal as an appraiser would, to try to take the emotion out of it. And so I appreciate your explanation of that, because I think you gave a great detail on how real estate agents should look at it, how they guide their client and when they're setting the price on the home they're going to sell. Because you're right, the seller and the buyer, they both are dealing with an emotion that are very different. And
correct. And
one thinks they bring more value to the table because of how they feel, and the other one thinks, well, it's not quite where I want it. So I think that was a great explanation. That helped me, and I know it helped our listeners as well. So, well, I sure do appreciate you joining me today and taking time. I can tell you're heading out to another call as a good real estate agent would. Be in your car ready to go.
I'm trying. Yeah.
And hey, tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you, how they can find more about the Twin Property Group, and just.
Yeah. So I'm on social media. on Facebook, on Instagram. It's the Chris Galvan. There was someone taken, so I'm not trying to be conceited. It's just I chose that because it was easy. Our group on Instagram, in Facebook, the Twin Brother Property Group. We're on YouTube as well. I have my own YouTube channel. Our group has its own channel. So you can just search by Chris Galvan, or you can search by Twin Brother Property Group. On any of those platforms, you can find us, or you can email me at chris@twinbrotherproperties.com. If you have any questions or anything like that, I want to thank you, John, for having me on. And I appreciate all you're doing, all the content and all the education. And because there's a lot of it, this is the not sexy part of real estate.
Right.
This is real estate. They want to see the new white kitchen, and they want to see, the post that says sold in 5 hours and all that stuff. But none of that matters if it doesn't appraise. None of it matters if you don't list it right and you don't know what you're doing when it comes to the deal for investors and for residential retail customers. So thank you for that. It does help, and it does make us all better at what we do.
Great. Well, thanks, Chris, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Okay. Sounds good, man. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Bye.
Okay.
That was a great interview with Chris. He always gives so many good details.
Yeah, I really enjoyed speaking with him. He's always fun to talk to.
One thing that really stood out to me is the fact that people really don't understand how important the appraisal site visit is. And the appraisal site visit is when the appraiser is there to look at the home to then determine the value of the home.
Right. That's where he gets all his details on that home so that when he goes back, he can evaluate it and determine the market value, which is what can make a deal work or not work.
Because the appraiser is there to work for the lender so that the lender makes sure that they are not lending money when they shouldn't be lending money.
Right. I mean, that's their job, and that's who they work for. And it's great to hear a real estate agent talk about the importance of the appraisal and that site visit.
I also like the way when the appraisal doesn't come in, Chris didn't say, "Oh, it's because I got a bad appraisal." He is looking at it like, what did the appraiser see that we didn't see? I love that.
Well, and I think that's key. And a lot of people want to immediately go to, well, it's bad. But it really is to do better and to learn and to grow as a real estate agent is, what did he see? What are they looking at that I missed? And how can we do this better? And from his two stories, it definitely tells how he analyzes certain situations and how they make up to improve and make sure that they're not dealing with issues with appraisals in future sales.
Well, and inside our community, one of the courses that we offer is a course on the quality ratings that the appraiser gives a home when they are doing the appraisal.
Which is another reason why that site visit is so important.
Absolutely. They're looking at the details. They're not looking at the home as a whole. And I think people misunderstand that they're going in and they're actually looking at the details of the home.
Which Chris made a great point when he was describing how he handles his CMA, is that he goes in and he looks at the photographs and is looking at details of each room.
Well, you can tell he does his research.
And that's the key. That's the difference, the level between a CMA and what the appraiser does in their report is the level of research and the level of detail that's included in their analysis and their calculations.
And that's what we're trying to teach on our podcast and in our community. There is a difference in the level of research between what a real estate agent does and what the appraiser does.
Right.
So if we can bridge that gap and everybody understands the amount of research that goes in to an appraisal, it just clears up a lot of misunderstanding.
Well, and it clarifies the point Chris made. He tries to do as much research and as much deal to try to get his numbers and to set a list price, guide his clients so that he's at a level, one, that a buyer will buy at, and two, that it will appraise at, so that they're not dealing with issues down the road.
He does a great job.
One of the other things, when you're looking at a sale where the appraised value doesn't come in, for example, his first story where it was a $12,000 lower than the sales price, which is a huge amount in that price range.
But a lot of people hear $12,000 and they don't think that's a big deal.
But it is.
But
it's 5%. But what that could be is one of the factors we need to always look at is, what if the size of the home, according to the appraiser, is different than what is on the public records?
That is such a good point. Because people assume that the information in public records is accurate. And we've said before, and we try to continue to educate people, the information in public records is given voluntarily. The county appraiser does not come into the home and measure specific areas. All of that has to do with the ANSI measurement standards. We do have a whole course on that also.
Right, but there is no verification of the public records.
Absolutely.
And when you get an appraisal back, in the report it's not going to say, my measurements were this, and the listing showed a different size. But it's a detail that always needs, when you're looking at a list price, always confirm the size of the home to ensure that you're selling there's an accurate square footage for your listing.
Because the buyers are being protected through the lender, because the lender is verifying the size of the home through the appraiser. So you got to know what you're buying, but you also need to know what you're selling.
Right. So you can protect your seller by having a pre-listing measurement done to verify.
So I wonder if that $12,000 had to do with the size.
It's a good question to ask.
Because it wouldn't have said it in the report.
Right. It's a good question to ask. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please do us a favor and subscribe or follow on the platform that you listen to your podcasts on. And also, if you would leave a review, we sure would appreciate that.
And if you find value in our content and you find the topic of real estate interesting, we'd love for you to join our Think Like an Appraiser community. You can go to thinklikeanappraiser.com and join there. Thanks a lot.
See you next time.